Here with Concordia head track and field coach Matt Beisel to preview the 2020-21 season, and as we record this, maybe about a week and a half away from the first official meet, which you have started having a meet in December to try to get some good marks in early. But it's been a while since you've had a chance to have a track meet, considering what happened last year. But I know during the fall season you're focused on distance running and cross country. But what have you noticed about how some of the fall training has gone from a track and field perspective?
Well, I'm focused on distance, but the entire rest of my staff is focused on sprints, hurdles, jumps, throws, multis, vault, and they've been working their tails off since before they came back. And we started school August 10th, and we started track practice August 10th, and not August 10th, a week later, but we got going early. And so our non-distance kids have been working as hard as my distance kids, preparing in the weight room, doing technical work, building overall strength, speed, endurance, all that good stuff, and they're ready to roll. They are itching to compete. It has been almost a year, since February, since they've gotten to do their thing, and they have all been working towards this for so long, and they're pumped.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know there's some good things happened during indoor season a year ago before fortunately you were able to get the national meet in before things kind of went dark.
I'll be eternally grateful for that. It could have gone otherwise.
But as far as the women were concerned, they won another conference title, and you had a cool moment being able to get a team trophy. What was that like, just that moment being up on the stage at nationals?
It's always fun, but again, like, we coaches, we love this. We work our tails off to recruit, to develop these kids, to build this team atmosphere, but it's not our trophy, it's their trophy. We've all won our championships, and as much fun as it is, the greatest delight I know I take from it is just to see these guys and these girls that have worked so hard be able to come together at that moment and hold that trophy up and celebrate that together. And it's a moment that they'll never forget. It's theirs forever, and nobody can take that from them, and it's not something that comes along every day. So I'm just really happy for them.
Well, the roster numbers for the program have continued to grow in quantity and quality. What can you say about that quality of depth that continues to grow within the program?
Yeah, when I came on board 4.5 years ago, we had some really good things going, but I was like, look, we need to continue developing and building our recruiting classes to bring in kids in every event area who can provide competitive depth at every event in track and field, and not just have one or two be our focus. And so that's what we've been doing. And it's funny because people ask me, well, like, who are you looking for this year? What events are you trying to develop? And we just get what we get. But every year we've gotten a good range. And we had 57 freshmen come in this year, and in every event area, and they're really good. And we have some good developmental kids, but those are the kind of kids who really end up taking off and doing some big things. So I think that's been a goal for 4.5 years, and we have another great class getting ready to come in next fall. So yeah, we'll keep on working towards that.
Now with the women's team, I wanted to start with Rachel Battershell, who of course had maybe one of the all-time great indoor seasons that a female's had here, and she still has some time left, thankfully. But how has that success changed her, if at all? I mean, what have you noticed from her?
Wow, I've known Rachel a long time, and she is, I don't know. I think it's continued to drive her. She's not satisfied. She's very much like our other best athletes. I remember Sam Learman won I think her third national shot put title, and she went and got Gatorade dumped on her. When things calmed down, I went up and kind of gave her a pat on the shoulder. I'm like, man, that's really awesome, congrats. And she literally frowned, and this is after setting a school record, winning her third national title, and she frowned and said, I should have thrown farther. So that's kind of the reaction we get from our kids is they're not satisfied. Now again, you should be able to enjoy and celebrate, and I know Rachel did. She had, and I know Sam did too at that time, but they always think about, okay, what's the next thing that I can do? And so I think if anything, it spurred her on to do more. She, and again, it's not about Rachel. Rachel's all about her team. And she, of course, enjoys going after it 110%, but she also has on her shoulders the knowledge that what she does makes a huge difference on team standings, and can also pull her relay members through. And so, yeah, she always thinks about her team. And again, I think if anything, her faith has grown. She's always had a strong faith, but that's something that is at the forefront of all that she does.
Well, a lot of athletes within the women's program now have gotten used to success and winning championships too. How has that kind of shaped the culture within the team?
I think there is a spirit of I guess high expectation. And again, they've always had that. When I took over the program, that wasn't any different. I just think that now that we've had a string of wins, there is this desire to keep doing that, but we also we want to win another national title. We've never won an indoor title. We got fourth for the first time. That was cool, but I think both our men and our women drive themselves so that we can win the conference title on both sides and then put ourselves in a position to be able to win more national titles. That is what they talk about. And they all have individual goals, but I think there's a really good synergy and team spirit, excuse me, about thinking of their teammates as much or more than themselves, and just trusting that if their teammates are on their mind when they're getting on the runway or stepping into the ring or getting out on the track, then that's what drives so many of them to even greater things than they thought were possible.
We'll get to the men here too as well in a little bit, but with the women, how do you like how things are shaping up across event groupings? I know it's become a program very well known for pole vaulting in addition to throwing, and now you're building depth across areas, but how is that coming along for women?
Sorry to interrupt. I think really well. And the big question mark, which is why this meet is so important. Number one, these kids had their season taken away outdoor. The high school kids, these kids haven't had, we have no idea. They don't really have any idea of what they can do, these freshmen. And yet they had really great marks their junior year, but it's been a long time. And so I think there's the big question mark of what are we in the ballpark of right now? So there's a lot we don't know, but I think we're all very hopeful because of the talent level. In every area, you have, just on the women's side in the throws, again, Addie Shaw and Beth Shaw have used their eligibility up for indoor, so they'll be competing unattached, but their big time will come outdoor for their final season. But then you still have upperclassmen like Morgan DeYoung and Sarah Ragland, who are already All-Americans, who are coming back to see what can happen. Elle Lure is really, really doing well. She was in basketball and track for a while. Now she's 100% track and doing some great things. Jordan Anderson, Olivia Bouchaw, Allie Owings. Those are all returning very talented athletes. I think, honestly, our freshman class of female throwers is one of the most talented female throwing classes we've ever brought in. You start thinking about people like Abby Gerber from Columbus, Erin Painter from Ainsworth, Cameron Picorni from Shelby Rising City, Faith Riggle from Scribner-Snyder, and Erin Schmidt from Fillmore Central. Those are all women who are state level outstanding throwers, and then there's some others who are developing. So throws has come back strong. Jumps, we have Cora Olson, Katie Sievert, and Jamie Broman, who all jumped at long jump at nationals last year, and were all conference, and they also help us with the short sprints. Taylor Mose and Adriana Sims in the triple jump. You look at pole vault, Josie Pels is back. Okay, here's a woman who ended up getting third at nationals and almost broke 13 feet, and she's also going to be hurdling this year for something that she was a state champion in. We just had her sit out of that, so we'll add that to the mix. But Erin Mapson is back. She had an injury that she took last year to recover from, but she's vaulting great. Amir and Abby Bach. I'm sorry, not Abby. Abby's the sister. Anna Bach. Hey, Abby. Anna Bach is someone who, as a freshman, made nationals in the pole vault and then had kind of a couple of rough years, and she looks better than I've seen her in years. She's killing it, and I'm excited for her. But we also look at Amira Cummings, freshman from Cheyenne, Wyoming, who I think can go over 12 feet this year, and then Abby Shea from Ray High School out in Colorado, who also has that potential. Then on the sprints and hurdles, Rachel, Sarah Lewis, JC Pfeiffer, and Micah Breeze. That's our returning 4x4. But you add into the mix people like Hannah Mulligan, who's also a great short distance sprinter. And then we have Sydney Chernicow. Sydney ran for Waverly. I recruited her for several years. She ended up playing a year of softball here, but now has transitioned back over to track and field, and she could be a key component to that 4x4. And then Taylor Williams, younger sister of Cody, from out in Imperial, Nebraska. She's showing a lot of promise and potential. Multis, returning national qualifiers, Kennedy Mogul, Emily Loy, and Kaylee Boyle, who hit the minimum mark. And then we have 2 freshmen, Amy Rickert from Nebraska Lutheran, Natalia Wells from Ralston. Of course, none of these kids do multis in high school, but Amy Rickert was a 5'5" high jumper and a state class 300 hurdler. She's doing great. Natalia Wells was nearly an 18-foot long jumper and also a state level 300 hurdler, and she's doing great. So who knows what can happen there. And finally, on the distance, mid-distance, Kylan Heritage, Alyssa Fye, and then you've got, those are 2 of our girls that ran on the distance medley relay at nationals. But then you have Lydia Cook, Sydney Clark, Abby DeLoach, and Amy Martin, all returning. Very good distance runner in the longer events. And then freshmen, 2 real standout freshmen, Grace Raymond, who ended up being one of our top 3 runners this year in cross country and is also showing ability in the mid distance, as well as Riley Hacker. Grace ran for Adams Central, Riley ran for Raymond Central, and then transferred to Bruning Davenport Shickley, but ended up not having a track season there. But those 2 girls are crushing it in time trials and practice. So those are some of our top kids as we head into the season, with a whole slew of other kids who could really take off. We just don't know. Can you tell I'm excited? I love these athletes are wonderful people, and it's so exciting to me and to the other coaches to see what they can actually do here in a week and a half.
I can tell you're excited.
Oh, I'm jacked. I'm fired up.
I wish we could name everybody on the whole team, but it would take a long.
I mean, but all those kids I named are potential national qualifiers,
Sure.
returning All-Americans, and all-conference athletes, and I didn't even do all of them. So for those of you listening or watching this, you'll have to be patient with me because these kids are all critical players.
All right, now shifting to the men, I wanted to start with one individual in particular.
Yep.
That's certainly one of your top performers, Xavier Ross.
Yeah.
And just talking to him, one of his goals is to take aim at some of Mark Samuel's records.
Oh,
school
yeah.
records.
It's awesome.
But I know you've known him for a while too. But what can you say about his story, getting him to come to Concordia and now just seeing him really excel too?
Yeah, I had the great fortune when I lived in Chicago. My daughter and son went to Emmanuel Lutheran Middle School, elementary school, and Xavier and his sister also attended there. So I had the opportunity to coach cross country and track one year when Xavier was an 8th grader. And so I got to know their family really well. And Xavier, who's a great sprinter, also was a pretty good cross country runner for 8th grade. But he went to the state junior high meet, placed in 4 events in the jumps and the sprints, and he's a special kid. And so fast forward to his junior year, I took the position here and was like, hey, would you be interested? And the rest was up to God. This was the right place for him. Xavier came, and he's been a huge asset to us. Ended up All-American last year in the Open 4, helped us to get our 4x4 to nationals.
And going a little bit deeper with the men, how satisfied have you been with just the progress you've seen? I know not having Cody Williams completely healthy, maybe limited what you could do at nationals and conference. But how pleased are you with how things are coming?
I'm happy with it. I'm glad we got that fixed. Yeah, unfortunately, and this is, again, you hate to have it come down to one person, but sometimes it does. My goal is to have a bunch of Codys so that if one of them or two of them aren't able to compete because of an injury or an illness, we have others to step into their place. We're not quite there yet. I think the ladies are where I want the guys to be, and so that's something we've been working for in the recruiting process. But Cody, clearly, him not being able to compete indoor last year, I think it could have swayed the difference and helped us to get second instead of third at conference, and instead of tying for 17th at nationals, potentially a top 10 finish. So it is what it is. Now's a new year. Cody's healthy, he's ready to roll, and we've moved him out of the multis. He's basically pole vaulting, hurdling, and jumping, and so that's going to give him a lot of different things that he can do.
All right, maybe you could break down the men a little bit too, like you did with the women. I know a lot of years it's not uncommon to take 35 or so athletes to nationals, but what do you feel like could be some strong event groupings for the men?
Again, I think in every event grouping we've got some pieces that are coming into play. Jacob Cornelio and Jared Peters, who were at nationals, and we had a national champion and out of Jacob Cornelio last year. Those guys used up their indoor eligibility, so they'll be training, competing on attach, preparing for outdoor. So they're not in play for our team effort, but they'll be there as positive leaders, and that's just like Addie and Beth, really important to our group. But on the guys' side, we have a group of guys that are older guys who've all redshirted a year and are now back. And so you have Andy Amos from Missouri, you've got Hunter Bartles from out in Chase County High School in Nebraska, Donye Buck from California, Zach Christensen from Adams Central, Brady Clutie's a sophomore from, oh my gosh, can't remember. I'm sorry, I tried to get them all. Brady, I know this, I can't think of it. And then Chris Wren from California. Those guys all did very well last year, the ones that were not redshirting, and they have been moving some massive weight in the weight room, and I'm just fired up to see what they can do. But then you add in a couple of freshmen, Darian Samito from California, and Peter Kreutzer, his older brother was Phil. Peter's older brother was an All-American for us from Kearney High, and now his little brother is stepping into his shoes. On the jump side, Wyatt Loga, a B standard qualifier in the high jump, learning to long jump. He's a big player. But then we have three freshman guys. Joel Raffy from Sterling, who's a good triple jumper. You've got Cade Lutz from Dundee County Stratton High School, also a very good triple jumper. And then you've got Mish Newsom, who's from Union High School in Oklahoma, who's showing a lot of potential in the long and the triple, and probably in the sprints as well. Then you look at the vault. All right, so we've got Chase Berry, Zach Bennett, Tucker Platt, Dalton Berry, four of those guys, and then Cody Williams on top of that. There are some guys who can go and make All-American at Nationals. And then you throw in Zach Zoner. Zach is probably one of our top overall freshman athletes. He is, he went, I think, 14.6 in high school in pole vault 2 years ago, and also was an outstanding hurdler, so he'll hurdle and vault for us. You move on to sprints and hurdles. Xavier, Colton Meyer from Lincoln Lutheran, great national qualifier in the hurdles last year, and also on the 4x4. Henry Reimer was a part of that. We have Josh Taylor, short distance sprinter, transferred in, and then we have three guys. This will be fun. So Jacob Jennings played 4 years of basketball for Concordia. He's doing his 5th year as a grad student, came to us and said, I've never done track, always wanted to. And so we were like, we have no idea what you can do. And he started training with the sprinters, and he's running really well. He could potentially make a 4x4 that goes to nationals. Then there's Cade Kleckner, played 2 years of baseball for Concordia, hasn't done track in forever, and he was from Colorado and showed some potential in high school, but he's looking really good. And then there's Caden Verbis, who went to Cody Williams' high school, Chase County, took a year to go to junior college, and he's also a key player for our 400 and 200. In the multis, Jeremiah Reeser's our top dog. He's from Heartland Lutheran. In the distance, Jordan Lorenz and Wyatt Lear were all conference last year for us. Jordan got second in the 5,000. Lear had a little bit of an injury during cross country, but it seems to be healed up, and he's just got to get his fitness back. And then we have the 3 guys from last year: Antonio Blade, Owen Dawson, Camden Cessna. Camden from Kearney Catholic was our best cross country runner this year until he had an injury. He's on the mend from that. You put those guys in on the distance events, great things can happen. And then on the middle distance, we are going to have a great 4x8 this year. Absolutely. We have returning athletes. Christian Van Cleve, outstanding runner, has been putting in the work all fall and summer, but not running cross country, just training with fall track, as well as JP Reynolds and a couple of others. Then you throw in cross country runners: Calvin Rohde, Nick Price, and Ethan Ideas from Seward, and somewhere in that mix is a national qualifying and potentially All-American 4x8. So you put all those pieces together, I think we're going to be a much stronger team this year, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
All right, I wanted to touch on the captains you have on your team this year. I think there are 12 between men and women, if I've counted them right.
We've got a big team. We've got a lot of leaders and a lot of leaders with the title, yes.
What stands out to you about that group and why they may have been selected for that type of role?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of 2 things. And this is a reality that is true about being a captain, at least at this institution. You've got to have 2 things. You've got to be good at what you do. You've got to have the chops. You've got to be someone who's all conference, all-American, national qualifier level, but you've also got to be a person that really cares about the team, the teammates, and then shows that on a daily basis. You know, they've got to be kind. They've got to have the vision of the team in their heart, but they also have to go out there every day and lead by example in hard practice. Every one of those kids does that. And what's interesting, especially on the girls' side, is that we had some girls who were outstanding leaders as sophomores last year who were not eligible last year to be captains, who are now juniors, who got a ton of votes, but we also had the same number of votes for all these returning girls. We only graduated 1 captain last year. So that's how we ended up with a bunch. We're like, okay, they're all showing leadership. We're not going to take a captainship away from someone, especially when they're tied with these new kids. And so that's how we ended up with a really great leadership group. And again, as we've told the athletes, those are people with the title. But in every one of our event areas, we have additional people who really step up and show leadership every day within the distance squad. In addition to Jordan Lorenz and Sydney Clark, I also have middle distance runners Alyssa Fye and Ethan Pomko, and then I've got distance guys Nick Zadar, Zach Potratz, and Abby DeLoach, and they meet with me and we talk about things and make decisions together. And so it's really helpful to have advocates and liaisons who go out there and give it all they've got, but also perform well.
All right, last thing, we know meets are going to look a little bit different for indoor without spectators involved this year. And unfortunate, but that's, I guess, just the world we're living in right now.
It's a weird world.
Yes. Anything, comments on what the meets might look like and what you hope to get out of this first meet too that's coming up with the early bird meet here at the field house?
Yeah, there are multiple levels of the importance of this meet. Number one, it is going to be one of the first collegiate indoor meets at any level in the entire country since COVID hit. That cannot be understated. I have a young lady from out in Washington that is a senior that I've been recruiting, and they've been shut down. They lost their track season, they lost their fall seasons. Now they're probably going to lose their winter seasons the way things are going, and they're heartbroken. And it's frustrating. They're stuck in online classes, they're lonely. And she told me the other day, she's like, it's really important that you guys do this to show the rest of the country that it can be done. And I thought that was really cool and really insightful. And that hasn't been lost on me. We're kind of breaking some ground here and saying, hey, this can be done safely. And I think that's a message that needs to go out. Okay, let's let these kids compete. Number two, we have all these freshmen and transfers who haven't had a season in a year and a half, and nobody knows what they're really capable of, including them. There's a little nervousness involved, but also excitement. And then our returning athletes who have really big goals. This is a chance for them to see how close they are. I think we'll get some national qualifiers out of the mix. That's a great thing to do, but I think it's also going to give us as coaches and also the athletes themselves an idea of where they're at. And I always say this, it's this early meet, if you do great, then it's a motivator to keep training hard on your own over break, which is not always easy to do, so that when you come back, you haven't lost anything. And if you're not happy with how you do, it's a motivator to train hard over break so that you do better when you come back. I've been in both places. My freshman year, I went home, didn't run a lick. I ran for Concordia, and I got hurt right when I got back, and it was miserable, and I missed 2 meets, and I never made that mistake again. But I also had early time trials and stuff. Again, I was a distance runner, and we didn't have early season track meets where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running really well. I've got to make sure that I keep getting my miles and my training in over the Christmas break when it's tempting not to.